You don't have to. The camera's right there. You don't have to look at it, but you can look at me. I just want to make sure we're going live here in a minute. I want to welcome you. Let me try that again. I'll edit that part out. Yep. Want to welcome you back again to the Heartland 2018 conference here in Omaha, Nebraska. It's Friday. We're doing interviews all week. I'm here with Fernando. Avi, welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's good to have you. Move right up on the mic for me. Yeah,
sure.
Perfect. That's perfect right there.
All right, cool.
So let's get to know you a little bit.
Sure,
who you are, what you do, where you're from, those kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Avi Fernando. I'm a senior software engineer working for RSA. We specialize in a product called RSA Archer in the IT risk management platform. We build a platform for companies to manage their risk. So companies have a lot of compliance things that they gotta
like government kind of risk kind of stuff, or like what kind of risk?
That's one part of it. But a risk could be, in the case of a tornado, what do you do, right? Here's our set of procedures that we want all of our employees to follow. How do we manage that, right?
Okay.
If there is a new restriction by a government, for example, in EU, we know they've
generated a lot of risk, haven't they?
Yeah. So how do companies handle that, right? With privacy laws and things like that. So our platform allows people to manage that.
Okay. The Huskers, our Nebraska Cornhuskers, could have used you on Saturday.
Okay.
When the lightning struck, nobody had assessed what would happen if lightning strikes the stadium, right? And it was a mess.
Okay.
But that kind of risk, right? In other words. Oftentimes businesses don't think about events that they just don't think like what would happen years ago, 2011, the Missouri flooded, right? And historic flooding.
Yeah.
And there's businesses all along, including Gallup, who may or may not have thought through like, what, you have a river next to you.
Yeah.
What would you do, right? So it's that kind of risk. Right?
No, absolutely, yeah.
So besides natural disasters, what else? What are the kinds of things?
Threats, right?
Okay.
Are you prepared for in case you're hacked, right? What are the set of procedures that you're going to follow in case that happens, right? Cyber attacks, man-in-the-middle attacks. Yeah. So it could be any kind of risk.
Is insurance always the answer to risk? Is that... Sometimes it is, though, right? Right.
Yeah.
In other words, hey, I'm gonna pay somebody to take on some of the risk with me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Your talk. Tell me a little bit about. It was yesterday. Tell me a little bit about what you came to talk about.
Absolutely. So I talked about progressive web apps and its future and why we should adapt to it. So I gave the same talk at Kansas City Developer Conference in July. Great turnout. So I repeated the same talk here.
Oh, good, yeah.
First time in this conference. It's lovely. I really enjoy it. They put a phenomenal show over here.
Good.
So yeah, my talk was about what is the future of web applications and how do we convert a web application into a mobile application through these leveraging the concepts and the capabilities of progressive web applications, right?
So let me ask you that question.
Yeah.
What is the future? So when you think about, as we look ahead, for the average guy listening, when we think about what's the future?
So before I answer that question, let's look at what do we have today, right?
Perfect.
So if you are a company building mobile applications, what do you have today? First step is you have the ability to build a native app, right? So if you're using an iOS phone or an Android device, you can build a really clean looking, nice UI.
And pretty fast.
Native apps.
Right.
Great user experience. Amazing stuff. But if you're running a business doing this, you're going to take a little bit of a hit. So here's why. There are two different platforms, two different technologies, two different processes that you got to follow to release these apps. Yeah. And if you're a company running it, you have to hire people with a different background, right?
Right.
Swift programmers for iOS and Java for Android. So it's not very economical. And one of the other things that I see is that since you have two code bases, right, one here, how do you standardize requirements? How do you ensure that you don't miss a requirement, that you have a certain feature available in the Android phone and you completely missed it in the iOS phone, right? Or a bug fix. So in the perspective of running a business with native apps, I think it gets very challenging. So the answer to that is people came up with the idea of hybrid apps, right? So the hybrid apps basically said, hey, why don't we use one technology and one process to build these apps, and then generate different bills for the different platforms? Now that's great for a company,
right?
But I think the user experience is where it kind of fell apart again, because now you're trying to take this one-size-fits-all model and try to shove it in.
Right.
But two companies, I think, succeeded by creating something I like to call cross-platform native apps.
Okay.
So Xamarin, if you're a C#, if you're from a C# background, Xamarin, and then if you're from a JavaScript background, React Native. They came along and said, all right, we got you guys covered. Now you can get a little bit of a native look and feel of your apps. So I would say we're almost there, but we're not fully there yet.
Okay.
Because if you take the world of mobile apps and the web, a web application is a fully functional app which can provide a lot of capabilities. So then people ask, what about the mobile web? Why can't we just look at websites on our phone, right? And we could, but it doesn't give you an app-like experience, right? It's cumbersome to go to your browser and say, give me this address. It's not going to look right, and it won't work offline. So this is my segue into the progressive web apps capabilities, which came and said, now you can convert your web application into a mobile application, which is going to work offline, which is going to work when there is slow or no internet, and then which is going to provide you a really seamless installation experience, right? Yeah. So that's the philosophy of, or the concept of progressive web apps.
Yeah, and will there always be native and progressive? I mean, are we heading in a path where there's going to be times when we're going to need native, and there's going to be times when we can get away with progressive? Is that how it's going to work?
So today, I think they will go side by side, because even with progressive web apps, you still it needs to mature a little bit more, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay.
But I do firmly believe that we are headed that way.
Okay.
A lot of companies are actively working on the specifications and making things better. So in the future, is it going to take over? I would like to think so, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. What were you hoping in your session then? If there was one or two points, the most important points that people walked away with, what were you hoping they'd walk away?
So first thing is, if you're a company or if you're a startup, right, making a web application already, and you're trying to go into the mobile world, my takeaway was start thinking about progressive web apps, because that way you don't have to do a lot of work to make a mobile app. So you get two birds with one stone. Now, with the caveat of, depending on the use case, right? If you have like a full-blown platform, then you might have to rethink some of the capabilities. But for most cases, I think that should work. So that's one of the takeaways I wanted people to walk away with. The second thing is to get excited about where we're headed as the future of mobile apps. So kind of be cognizant of where we came from and where this is headed, and be able to kind of play around with some of those new technologies and see where they can take us.
Yeah, what are some good examples when we think about companies that are doing progressive web apps right? Can you give me an example or two?
Sure. So the website is called pwa.rocks. That has a collection of progressive web apps that people have submitted over and over. The notable ones that I would like to highlight would be India's e-commerce giant called Flipkart.com. So similar to Amazon.com, right? The similar concept in India. They converted their web application into a progressive web application, and they run in production today, dealing with a lot of traffic and a lot of money being transferred. So that's one of them. Twitter made like a Twitter Lite progressive web app. So that's one of the really good ones as well. But we do see a lot more people converting their existing web applications into a progressive web application.
We're starting to see Windows show up, not in the mobile space anymore, but they're showing up on smaller and smaller devices. Still 700 million Windows users out there.
Oh, absolutely.
So when we're thinking about progressive web apps, do we forget about the Windows users, or is there a way to account for them as well?
Oh no, not at all. Are you specifically referring to like the Windows apps?
Some of the smaller devices that are coming. We're seeing Windows tablets. I'm thinking like the Surface. A lot of people are carrying those around as phablets.
Yep.
You know, that kind of in that kind of space.
Yep.
Whenever we think of mobile apps, we think of Android or iPhone. But for these 700 million Windows users, is there a way for them to use these as well, or take advantage of the experiences that are made with them?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So the real question there is, does the browser support it? Right? So the good news is, as of today, all the browsers are on board. So Chrome and Firefox were on board since day one. We saw Edge getting on board. And then lately, Safari and iOS Safari has gotten on board. So if you're running Edge, and if Edge supports the concept of a service worker running on the browser, so that's what makes a progressive web app come true, your use case is covered.
Yeah.
So it is. So what you do is to set up the progressive web app. Your first try, you got to go to your website. So you say example.com. And then once you go there, it's going to prompt you saying, "Hey, do you want to add this to your home screen?" Or you can kind of manually go select that and add it to your home screen, and that's your installation. Once that's done, it's going to look and feel and act like an app.
Okay.
You're not going to notice the difference.
Yeah. What do you think? This is off script, but what do you think the future of the desktop is? You live in a mobile space. We're actually seeing some very first versions of Windows laptops coming with Qualcomm ARM-based chips, right?
Yeah.
And what do you think the future of the desktop is for most users? Are we going to stop? We're going to stop using desktops at some point, and everything becomes a version of mobile? Do you think?
Yeah, that's interesting. With the fast-paced world like today, I think we've seen a lot more devices come and go, right? So I do think
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Can you do mobile development or build progressive web apps on a mobile app? Like, could you realistically do your job on a mobile device today?
Oh, building it out?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
Could you do that?
For some,
it's kind of hard, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Isn't that funny? We still need those.
Yeah.
We kind of still need those Macs or the PCs.
Absolutely.
Are you a Mac or PC guy for development?
Mostly a Mac guy.
Mac guy.
Yep.
So we still need those Macs, right?
Yeah.
We still need the desktop.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Because unless you can come with a platform where you can code on your mobile device.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, do you think we'll get there? Like, do we think from an IDE standpoint, you'll have an IDE that can run on a mobile chip?
One day, I think.
I think you're right. Actually,
I think this is based off of the abstractions that we created, right? Like if you look at where this field came from in the 50s, with Alan Turing creating a computer as big as like a bunch of rooms over here, right? And see how far we've come.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a possibility. I won't rule that out. But how soon will it happen?
Yeah, I think we're getting closer than we think. Qualcomm has some new chips coming out next year. That are kind of optimized for this idea of how Intel came from the top down and Qualcomm is coming from the bottom up. And it'll be interesting to see, a moment when you can take your phone or your mobile device, plug it into, because you might want a little more screen real estate to be able to work with it, right? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not.
How about the future of things that you can project, right? Using your phone.
Yeah.
And maybe that's how you do your demo.
Right. No, right on.
Yeah.
What kind of questions did you get in your session afterwards? It's always interesting when the users come up and ask questions. Hopefully you got a few.
Yes.
What kind of questions do they ask?
So a couple of questions were, what are the limitations, right? So what are we limited by today when we try to go to progressive web apps? So one of the things is browser support. So the good news is everyone supports the core concept of a service worker. So a service worker is basically, I would say, a simple script, which is going to act like a proxy, tracking all of your requests from the client to the server. So this is what enables caching. This is what enables push notifications, right? Because the service worker file knows all of this information. So the limitations would be, can the browsers fully support it? So all the browsers today support the service worker capabilities, but then we still need more capabilities. Like, can you get access to more of the native elements of your phone, right, and render them? That's one of the limitations. Can we use the camera? Depends.
Camera, microphone, any sensors, right?
Absolutely. Depending on the browser.
Right.
But I do believe we're getting there. So that's one of the questions I got.
Any others that are or common questions you typically get?
Yeah. One question was, someone asked, like, is this something that you started off with at work, or is this something you did on the side? And my answer is on the side. This is something I'm really passionate about.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and saw, okay, what are the browsers supporting today? What's the concept? And also what frameworks are on board. So if you're using for web application dev, if you're using a modern web framework like Angular or React or Vue, you don't have to worry about it, because all of these frameworks come with the batteries included. With one command, you can enable progressive web app support. It'll give you that service worker file, and also another file called manifest.json, which basically enables how your app is going to look and feel like an act when you install it, quote unquote. Yeah.
Have you done any work on Visual Studio? Have you worked with that at all?
Yeah.
As an IDE, you like it?
Yeah. Have you heard of VS Code?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm more of in the JavaScript world.
Okay.
So I'm very excited about how VS Code. So we came from Sublime Text and Atom, or WebStorm, right? And then VS Code came out of nowhere, saying, "Hey, we have those capabilities."
A little
too.
acquisition helped, right?
Yeah.
Little acquisition helped with that.
Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, I'm excited about it. I think that editor provides a lot of features, and it's lightweight, and I'm really enjoying where.
Good. I think we're going to use more and more with our high school interns. We're going to try and encourage them to use VS Code as a as a platform. I think it's ready for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
No,
and
sure.
it's adding through plugins, adding support for a lot of languages as well. So
if
you're working JavaScript, great. I mean, you already have everything built in.
Well, it's just getting started. I think it's just getting started. And
absolutely.
Microsoft's going to continue to invest a bunch of money in it to kind of make it work. So I think it's a good bet. One more question, and then I'll let you go. AI and machine learning are big terms, right?
Absolutely.
And when we think about progressive web apps, I think there's going to be, we're not really there yet today, but I think there's going to be some opportunities to consume some of those AI services. How, in your space, are you seeing that yet? Are you thinking about that yet? What kind of topics are coming up around AI and machine learning?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's one of the hot topics today is that even enabling concepts like IoTs, right? How do we get these devices to communicate with each other through those AI channels, right? I do believe one day, and this is probably too soon, but a progressive web app could be used to control some of those devices, and get them to talk to each other through these capabilities. Leveraging
native or progressive, right? Both have similar challenges as endpoints. How do we consume this rich data without filling the pipe? Without consuming all the processing power at the endpoint. Right, or at the edge. I think Microsoft calls it being out on the edge. You know, I think that we still have a lot to learn about what that means of pushing things in and pulling things back out, and not where does that happen, right?
I think for that, one of the things is the UX design principles, if we're following that, because even with a native mobile app or even a progressive web app, right, we got to be careful about the mobile space that we have, right? We shouldn't load the whole world to it and expect it to function right. So we got to think about the architecture of homepage. What do we show, right? Do we really need to show all of these things? And when we go to separate pages, can we do lazy loading, right? Concepts like that, and say, does a user really need all this information at this point in time, right? If we follow some of those UX design principles, I think they'll help.
Cool. Avi, thanks for taking the time to be and to
Cool,
hang out with me today. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks for some of the great wisdom on that. We'll remind folks, if you're watching today, we'll be doing these interviews throughout the day. The rest of the videos are just below this one on the site. We'd love to have you out here live. We're not checking comments during the day, but love just to have you participate out there by viewing. So we'll be back with more interviews throughout the day. Thanks for watching.